Good morning, Asia. Good evening, America. You're watching World DNA with me, Raisha Sehgal. And Bangladesh will head to polls in just a short while from now amidst an opposition boycott and economic downturn. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina is eyeing for a fourth straight term. We will be tracking the Bangladesh polls very closely on the show today, but first, the headlines. Prime Minister Hasina likely to win fourth straight term as Bangladesh is set to vote in its 12th general election today amid a boycott and strike by the main opposition party in the country. Thousands demonstrate in Israel demanding release of hostages. Angry demonstrators call for the removal of Prime Minister Netanyahu's government and an end to the war in Gaza. U.S. airline regulator orders the grounding of 171 Boeing 737 MAX 9 jets after part of one plane fell off during an Alaska Airlines flight. Chinese Foreign Ministry will sanction 5 U.S. military manufacturers in response to U.S. arms sales to Taiwan. At least 11 people, including 5 children, were killed by a Russian missile strike on the eastern Ukraine town of Pokrovsky, claims the regional governor as the bombings intensify. And starting with the top story of the day, Bangladesh is voting in its 12th parliamentary elections today. The ballots will remain open till 4 p.m. local time and counting will start soon after the end of voting, with initial results expected by early Monday. About 120 million voters will choose from nearly 2,000 contestants for the 300 directly elected parliamentary seats. Well, there are over 400 independent contestants in the race, the most since 2001.
In the fairness and acceptability of results of election. As a result of that, we want that our election be observed not only nationally as well as internationally.
Prime Minister Hasina is set to get a fourth straight term in office as the main opposition party, Bangladesh Nationalist Party, also known as BNP, is boycotting the polls. In her long years in power, especially after 2008, Hasina has presided over exceptional economic growth in a country once beset by abject poverty. However, her government has been accused of rampant human rights abuses and a ruthless crackdown on the opposition. In the run-up to the polls, the Sheikh Hasina government has come under fierce criticism for not stepping down to let a neutral caretaker government oversee the polls. Hasina and Awami League party maintains that free and fair polls can be conducted in the country under the existing government and that there is no need for a caretaker government. Now, the BNP has given a call for non-cooperation, urging people to boycott the elections. Well, violence erupted on the eve of the election, with a passenger train set on fire, killing at least 4 people. At least 14 polling centres and 2 schools in 10 districts were set on fire between Friday evening and early Saturday. Troops have fanned out across Bangladesh to maintain peace, while nearly 800,000 police, paramilitary and police auxiliaries will be guarding the polling booths throughout the day. Around 25,000 opposition cadres, including the BNP's entire local leadership, were arrested in the ensuing crackdown. The government puts the figure at 11,000. The economic headwinds have left many dissatisfied with Hasina's government. After sharp spikes in food costs and months of chronic blackouts in 2022. Wage stagnation in the garment sector, which accounts for around 85% of the country's annual exports, that also sparked industrial unrest late last year, which saw some factories torched and hundreds more shuttered. In Bangladesh, economic and healthcare concerns weigh heavily on the minds of the people. The nation recently saw a garment workers' strike and dengue outbreak in the country. Now, the question being, will these issues have any impact on the elections? Let's find out.
The apparel industry is one of the pillars of Bangladesh's economy. Over the decades, it has provided jobs to millions of people. But a slowdown in this vital sector is now reflecting in the overall health of the nation's economy. In 2023, the apparel industry of Bangladesh was valued at around $1,110 billion. With over 3,500 factories, it serves major global fashion brands. These factories employ over 4 million people, a majority of whom are women. But conditions have become dire for many of the sector's workers. The last few months have seen major unrest in Bangladesh's export-earning ready-made garment or RMG industry. In November last year, up to 25,000 garment workers clashed with police in Bangladesh. Rejecting a government-offered pay rise, the workers forced the closure of at least 100 factories outside Dhaka. For almost a decade, Bangladeshi government worker Naeem Pramanik sold shirts and trousers for top Western brands worn by people around the world. But today, the 28-year-old is unemployed and doesn't have money to buy basic necessities for his survival. What was his mistake? Pramanik had taken part in the protests demanding a fair wage.
I don't have any money to buy food right now. I'm having a tough time. I'm living a miserable life. I only have 2 kilograms of rice that will last only 2 days. Then I starve.
The issue that concerns the voters most is the inflation. The cost of living has gone up enormously. And the lower income groups are suffering very, very poorly. So that the government is giving assurances, the ruling party is giving assurances. Somehow the people don't seem satisfied with the assurances that are coming forward.
Last year, Bangladesh grappled with record deadly outbreak of dengue fever. Hospitals struggled to make space for patients as the disease spread rapidly in the densely populated country. Abu Hassan is still in a state of disbelief and shock. His 6.5-year-old son, Tashfin Ahnaf, died from dengue in July last year. The 43-year-old journalist and father of 2 other children is distraught at how quickly the tragedy unfolded and how helpless he felt.
The night time was very critical and I didn't get any support from the doctors. I went to every department begging for help in every way possible, aside from falling down to their feet. It is outrageous that no doctor was present at the pediatric intensive care unit, which provides critical care in a prestigious institution like Dhaka Medical College and Hospital. For 4 hours, my son didn't get any treatment here.
The record outbreak of dengue fever in Bangladesh, a country of more than 160 million, killed over 1,200 people and infected more than 250,000 last year. Hassan says lack of a coordinated response in controlling mosquito breeding is causing a higher incidence of the disease. The health crisis in Dhaka worsens every day in a city with creaking infrastructure. The infection also spread to the Rohingya refugees who live in bamboo and plastic camps just outside the coastal city of Cox's Bazar. In 2022, the camp saw over 15,000 cases and at least 6 deaths.
And as we are covering the Bangladesh polls, the story of Bangladesh will not be complete without mentioning its neighbor across the border, India. Well, India and Bangladesh go way back in time. New Delhi helped Bangladesh achieve its liberation in 1971. And as we will establish shortly, India is still influential in Bangladesh, right from the kitchen to the ballot. Let's now take a closer look at New Delhi's stakes in the Bangladesh elections. Take a look at this map here on your screens right now. Bangladesh is almost surrounded by India on 3 sides. There are 5 Indian states that surround Bangladesh, except for the 271-kilometer long border with Myanmar here. Well, in the southeast, that is. Now, India and Bangladesh share an over 4,000-kilometer land boundary, and for India, Bangladesh is not only a neighbor, but also a strategic partner and a close ally. And it is extremely crucial to the security and connectivity of its northeastern state. Like I mentioned, the 5 Indian states that surround Bangladesh. Now, India and Bangladesh have already started some connectivity projects in this region, be it the road, railway, river or maritime transport. Well, India and Bangladesh, they also have close cultural, ethnic and linguistic ties. To understand better, we spoke to Ambassador Shashwati Mukherjee. She is the former ambassador to Netherlands and France and also the author of bestseller on Bengal partition. Take a listen as to what she had to say on India-Bangladesh ties.
Bangladesh is a neighboring country with whom we have been able to settle all territorial issues. That is a great relief, considering that we have, on one hand, Pakistan, on the other hand, China, who have systematically questioned and tried to cause conflict on our border. Bangladesh, in fact, is an amazing success story. And what many don't know is India's role in contributing through development cooperation, through assistance, etc., to Bangladesh's success story economically.
A friendly regime in Dhaka is extremely important for New Delhi. Enter Sheikh Hasina and the Awami League. The party, once led by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, has had close ties with India since the liberation of Bangladesh. Sheikh Hasina, the daughter of Mujib, has maintained good relations and ties with India since she was first elected in 1996. In Sheikh Hasina's long years in power, especially after 2008, the ties have strengthened and evolved into a multi-dimensional partnership. Let's now tell you more about India-Bangladesh ties. Well, Bangladesh is India's biggest trading partner in the subcontinent. And it is also India's second biggest export partner. Well, last year, the total bilateral trade valued over $14 billion between India and Bangladesh. Apart from this, India's exports stood at over $12 billion, which includes cotton, yarn, petroleum products and cereals, which were among the top commodities exported. Now, while the imports, over $2 billion imports, included RMG cotton, cotton fabrics and jute. Now, just last year, Bangladesh and India launched trade transactions in their own national currencies. Given the booming trade and overall bilateral ties, it's only natural for New Delhi to support the Hasina-led Awami League government. Also, since India's other options are limited, India had a harrowing experience with the Khalida Zia-led BNP government that was in power between 2001 and 2006. With its links to Islamist extremists, India blames the BNP government for the rise in the number of groups that supported extremist groups and actions across its border.
It was a difficult relationship because the BNP, unfortunately, has close links with the Pakistan. The BNP also has a certain anti-Hindu approach, as a result of which many Bangladeshi Hindus left during that period.
Soon after coming to power in 2009, Sheikh Hasina won favour with Delhi after acting against ethnic insurgent groups in India's northeast, some of which were operating from Bangladesh itself. Well, looking ahead, Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has promised to maintain its friendly ties with India if she is re-elected. The Awami League has even made it a point to mention this in the election manifesto as well. Now, with the BNP boycotting the current polls, the return of Sheikh Hasina is almost certain, and New Delhi seems comfortably placed, at least in the near future. Hence, it's extremely important. Another global news, anger in Israel is growing against the Netanyahu government. Thousands of demonstrators have taken to the streets demanding the removal of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and an end to the war in Gaza. Demonstrations took place at the Habama Square, with some blaming Netanyahu and other officials for Hamas attacks of October 7th. Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, people gathered in front of the house of the Israeli president to demand the release of hostages held by Hamas. Demonstrators held signs bearing pictures of hostages' faces and messages such as, and I'm quoting here, "Get them out of hell."
I think the government should do everything they can do to bring them back home. It's so many days, too many days that they're there.
For me to be here to demand a ceasefire now and a political solution now, and to convey our voices and to shout as loud as we can, even through the repression that we are experiencing right now, and even though no one wants us to voice those voices, it's more important than ever for us to do voice them and to say however loud we can and whenever we can. And it's important for me to be a part of this, to be part of the solution and not part of the problem.
And this is seen as one of the major anti-government demonstrations since the war began on October 7th. Demonstrators called for elections as they came out on the streets of Tel Aviv. More than 100 people are still believed to be in Hamas's captivity. And Sunday marks 100 days since the October 7th attack, after which Israel launched an offensive aimed at wiping out Hamas. Israeli offensive has so far killed over 22,000 people in Gaza. During a temporary truce in November, Hamas released 105 hostages in a mutually agreed hostage exchange between Hamas and Israel. In other global news, Alaska Airlines is grounding all its Boeing 737-9 aircraft. This means a total fleet of 65 planes. And this after a passenger plane with 177 people on board made an emergency landing in the U.S. state of Oregon shortly after takeoff. The plane landed safely after a window blew out mid-air, leading to rapid cabin depressurization incident. Well, visuals released from the incident show the window panel blown out, with emergency oxygen masks hanging from the ceiling.
All of a sudden I heard like a big bang, and I didn't know exactly what was going on, but I look up and the oxygen masks were hanging from the ceiling. And then I look to my left and there's this huge chunk, part of the airplane, just like missing. And the wind is just extremely loud, there's wind blowing everywhere. But everyone was in their seats and everyone had their seatbelt on, thankfully.
An audio has been released capturing the conversation during the tense moments before the emergency landing. Take a listen.
And Portland, Alaska, 1282. We are ready for the approach and we'd like to do the approach.
Alaska 1282, can you get down from there? You want to give you a box around to get down?
We can get down, Alaska 1282.
Alaska 1282, no problem. If I clear you from there, it looks like you're on a localizer.
Clear for the approach, Alaska 1282.
Alaska 1282, you're over Hitster, cleared ILS 22 left approach.
Cleared ILS 2 left approach, Alaska 1282.
No serious injuries were reported among those on board. And following the near catastrophe, Alaska Airlines CEO Ben Minusse said in a statement that as a precautionary measure, the entire fleet has been grounded for now. He further added that each aircraft will return to service only after completion of full maintenance and safety inspections. The US airline regulator has ordered the grounding of some Boeing 737 MAX 9 jets after this incident. The Federal Aviation Administration said that the inspections would affect 171 planes. In the wake of this blowout, India's aviation regulator has ordered all Indian airlines to carry out a one-time inspection of all Boeing 737 carriers operating in the fleet. However, the Indian aviation sector regulator has clarified that none of the country's air operators have Boeing 737-9 MAX as a part of their fleet yet. And the world of business now. In the fast-paced world of investing, safe havens often take a backseat for the perceived modest gains. However, if there's one asset that consistently outshines the rest, it's undoubtedly gold. And our next report delves into why gold remains an invaluable asset poised for continued growth in 2024. Take a look.
In the dynamic landscape of investments, gold stands as a radiant beacon, poised to maintain its dominance throughout 2024. The allure of this precious metal has intensified, drawing increased interest from both central banks and individual investors. Gold showcased a stellar performance in 2023, yielding an impressive 15% return. Over the last half-decade, it has consistently delivered an average annual return of approximately 15%. This marks a remarkable feat in the global investment spectrum. The surge in gold's appeal gained momentum post the Ukraine war, as Russia and China strategically accumulated gold to hedge against economic uncertainties, especially in their de-dollarization efforts. A major driving force behind the gold rush is the de-dollarization efforts of major economies, including China. Central banks globally witnessed a significant shift, doubling their gold accumulation from 450 tons in 2021 to an impressive 800 tons in 2022, a trend that persisted into 2023. In a landscape marked by global economic weaknesses and persistent inflation, gold emerged as an attractive defensive investment, heightened by unprecedented fiscal and monetary stimuli post-COVID. Furthermore, governments worldwide embarked on massive borrowing endeavors during the pandemic. Overall public debt soared to $97 trillion in 2023. This relentless pace of debt accumulation poses challenges for stable economic growth and inflation control. With geopolitical uncertainties persisting and governments grappling with macroeconomic instability and soaring debt, experts anticipate gold to remain a defensive investment of choice. The International Monetary Fund warns that global inflation rates may not ease into the comfort zone of central banks by 2025, further underscoring gold's significance as a safeguard. In the face of economic uncertainties and geopolitical tensions, gold's lustrous journey serves as a reminder that hedging and diversifying across assets are paramount for achieving an all-weather portfolio. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
And it's time to slip into a short break. Thanks very much for staying with us. You're watching WION, World is One. Stay tuned.
India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
This week on Melt, what do marketers need to keep in mind for the year 2024? Let's hear from our Melt maestro, Shiv Kumar.
The market does not reward you for hope. The market rewards you for real numbers. And so the language of